busy time, and this is a great time for us to get together and celebrate. And I want everybody to make sure before we get deep into this call that you have a drink ready. We need to celebrate success. We're going to have a toast at the end of this call, so I'm warning you now. Have a glass handy. Be ready. Because after we talk and learn, growing is so important. We got to keep growing, keep learning. We're going to celebrate because I think we forget to do that. Busy, hardworking people forget to stop and celebrate. So at the end of the call, we will have a toast. So I'm telling you now, if you need to run and get a glass ready, you have to do that now, right? So again, welcome. I am going to turn it over. We are ready to start. We are on time. Anybody else is just late. So we are going to get it going. I would like to bring on our hostess with the mostest, Miss Naomi Cox. I'm excited she's there. Thank you, Naomi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have you guys back here. Good evening. Thank you for joining the Trina Lawson Group. Again, this is a really important and insightful discussion that's going to be had between some amazing people that Trina's connecting us with. It's me again, Naomi Cox, your friendly neighborhood host, MC. I'm here to keep you guys pumped up. I do public relations coordination at Trina Lawson Group, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys because I have had just tidbits of these three people, and they're going to blow you away because they are so deep into what's going on. They know what they're doing, and these are the mentors you need. We want to welcome you all to the Networking and Social Impact Today, where we will learn strategies to come out of COVID connected and a cut above. You want to be connected and a cut above. This learning webinar is hosted by the Trina Lawson Group because we understand education. We know you need to be educated, and we know that knowledge is power. We want to empower you. So real quickly, now that I know everybody's probably, really good at Zoom, I'm not. You should see this setup I have over here. It's crazy. But in any case, we just want to remind you as you're logging in to remember to look to the chat box, because during this conversation that's going on, if you have questions, we want you to pop them in the chat box. We're going to try to get to all of your questions. And if for some reason we don't, you can connect with Trina, and she will get you connected to these experts. They are super busy people, but they have agreed to be here with us for you. So we just want to make sure that, that you are ready for that. And we also want to let you know that Trina's going to be doing a raffle at the end of this. For the people who are on the call, if you're not on the call, you have to be present on the call. You're going to miss out. But she got sponsors to give some nice goodies. She's going to do a raffle. And as she said, she is also going to do a toast at the end. You want to toast with Trina, okay? For those of you who joined us in June, you know that we did our mixer, networking mixer that was about making meaningful connections. And now we want to teach you how to maximize those connections even during this crazy time, because it's crazy, no doubt about it, but this is a time when you can level up. This is a time for you to get your head straight and pivot where you're going to go with your business and your life. How many of you know that even while there's massive and unprecedented craziness, that it's an opportunity for you to be able to take it to the next level? I know these experts know that. Trina knows that for sure. And she's going to, with these people, she's going to be able to take you to the next level. They're going to give you tips and tidbits on what you can do for your own business. But I want to introduce you real quickly to this panel of experts that's talking tonight, because you came up when you clicked on here. But tell you right now, this lady right here, real quick, amazing. This is the incredible Candy Lewis. She is the founder and executive director of Positive Results Center, whose mission is to create awareness of and prevent the trauma that comes from violence and abuse. Have you heard the saying that someone wears their heart on their sleeve? Well, Miss Lewis' heart is right there front and center, because she always has a huge heart for young people, and that's what drives her. Candy Lewis is a masterful trainer and advocate certified in treating and addressing domestic violence and sexual assault, and she specializes in trauma experienced by teens. Her leadership abilities in working with at-risk youth have changed and empowered hundreds, if not thousands, of lives. Ms. Lewis has been the recipient of numerous awards, including Woman of the Year in Education, Vanguard Award for Most Influential African American in Los Angeles, Woman of Distinction, and tons more we don't even have time to tell you about. You need to check her bio. Welcome Ms. Lewis to our panel. Woo! Right, Candy Lewis.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here, and I look forward to engaging with everyone. Thank you, Miss Trina, with Trina Lawson's Trina's Treasures, and I look forward to hearing from my brother and sisters that's on the call and engaging with everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, also joining us, is one of Trina Lawson's group's biggest supporters and someone we consider a mentor and advisor to our team, Mr. Gregory C. Scott. This man, clearly, he never sleeps. He never sleeps. He is the head of so many projects we almost can't keep up. Mr. Scott is currently serving as the president and CEO of Community Action Partnership of Orange County, who seeks to prevent and ultimately put an end to poverty. His influence there has also impacted thousands of lives. In addition to that, he also serves on another board. He's the CEO and executive coach of Scott Impact Group. Gregory's 20+ years of vision and leadership are the foundation of his career as a C-suite executive in leadership development. And that experience has revolutionized the way multitudes of global leaders and senior executives have restructured and improved their business. He also have a very innovative, what he calls disruptive leadership. I like that, because that's like a shake it up and turn things around. But that's helped these leaders reframe and grow their businesses. He's been honored by and received tons of awards from notables such as Michelle Obama, Dr. Joe Biden, LA County Board of Supervisors, countless others. Not enough time to list them all here. You've got to read his bio. We are honored to have him join the conversation. Welcome back, Mr. Gregory Scott.
Awesome. Thank you. When you were reading it, I was like, who the hell is she talking about? Because that's me. But I'm honored to be here. I am a little intimidated by being on this panel with all these amazing women. Candy with your $1 million beautiful smile and all that good stuff. So I'm excited to be here, but looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much. And last but definitely not least, wow, this is a first for us, and we're excited that she's joining our team. TLG is very excited to welcome Dr. Ann McClellan of McClellan Consulting. Dr. McClellan is a business strategy consultant who serves as the Executive Director for Growth, Innovation, and Research in Education at the University of Houston College of Education. Her work focuses on developing and funding new initiatives in education. She is hailed as an innovator and a motivator and brings powerful expertise to our discussion. Dr. McClellan's experience includes her directorship at the Middle School Matters at George W. Bush Institute, and she was the founding principal of the first early college in Houston. Did you know early college, middle colleges offer a pathway to an associate's degree while students are yet in middle and high school? And she innovated that. She's bad. Education is key, people, and we are thrilled to have Dr. McClellan share her thoughts with us. Welcome, Dr. McClellan. Woo! Thank you to our expert panel. We are excited. So let's get started. So now it's time to say hello to the I never give up. There's always a way to make it work. If I'm down, the only way out is up leader. Trina has over 25 years of experience connecting people to resources and other people. To her, relationships matter. She has a gift of making you smile, making sure you have everything that you need to be successful in business and in life. She can connect you to people, places, resources, funding, and if you need new clients and customers, she is your girl. Let's bring on the original connector, the one and only Trina Lawson. Take it away, Trina.
Hey, thank you again. This is exciting. I almost said open everybody up so we can scream, but we'll do that. We'll do that later. But isn't this exciting? Yes.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Again, this business for me is about connecting people to other people and to resources and loving it. I mean, I found that this was just a gift is something that when I see you and you're talking to me, my brain is going like connect the dots. Who does he need to meet? Who does she need to meet? So I'm bringing together clients and resources and new people for anybody and everybody, but I love it. It's fun. It's like I'm asleep and I have to get up sometime and write names down because I need to tell this person that this person got this grant and this person needs to meet that person. And it's just it's kind of like we all need each other. Relationships do matter. This is how we grow our businesses. This is why God gave us family, right? So I am excited. And this panel, I have to say, you guys are just blowing me away. When I listen to your bios, and I know you also well personally, it touched my heart because I'm like, man, I know some bad people. You know, you guys are deep, but you're also humble and you're kind and you're down to earth. And not everybody believes that about leaders. So that is a blessing. I want to commend you and thank you guys for always being there to encourage me and to help me shape my vision and to walk with me in a lot of stuff that we're doing. So thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to jump into our conversation. Are you ready, Miss Lewis?
Absolutely. You know, I stay ready.
You ready, Dr. McClellan?
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Okay, we ain't running out to get no seafood and wine right now, but you ready? That's our thing. And Mr. Scott, are you ready?
Yo, I'm ready.
Let's go. So let's start with a question that's the big question, I guess. That this is the one that you guys can just talk about openly. Let's start with discussing how people need to do business and life differently. That's a big one. Everybody knows that there's been a lot of change, but give us some how-to. How do we do business and life differently after coming out of this season? And I'm going to call it a season because that's all it is. We don't do no pity parties. This is the season. So when we come out of this, how do we do life differently?
I'm going to go first. You ready?
Yes.
Ready for this?
Let's go.
So the question, so one of the things Trina didn't tell you is my main gig right now, I'm winding down my university job, but I do executive coaching and I do transformational leadership training. And so the question I'd ask you is, what have you learned during COVID that you didn't know about your family, that you didn't know about yourself, you didn't know about your business, you didn't know about the world? And when you look up and we go into where we land, can you stand in a future that you remember what you learned? For me, it's about learning and it's about creating a different future. And so I don't know what normal is going to look like. But I do know that if I stand in a place where I've learned from where we are right now, there's a lot of really good work I've done. There's a great appreciation for my family, people that I know, friends and work in the work like Trina have pulled people forward to create something new. And here we are tonight.
Well, I'm going to jump in on that. And thank you. That was great. So what I did was I had to really think about who Candy is. What is Candy like? What does Candy want? And what's most important to me? And I looked at our company and I looked at our mission and I really thought about what's going to make sense. And I realized if you look at all of the organizations around you, everyone jumped and scrambled and started running, trying to recreate themselves like in a matter of time. Mm-hmm. But they didn't stop to think about what's really true and authentic to them. And so that's the difference. You have to really believe and feel and find what's most important and what's authentic to you. See, if you are an apple, there's no way you could be a banana. Okay, so you have to be real and think about, what do you want? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And then you can make some changes and some adjustments, but don't really veer off so far that you lose yourself.
Wow. Authentic.
How do I follow up on all of that? You got to be authentic. You got to learn. I think, for me, it's, I remember I was coaching Little League when my son was smaller. And I was running this league. And, these games, we're teaching these young men how to play basketball. We're in the gym, we go through our season. And at the end of the season, you know, there's a playoff and then there's a championship. And at the end of the championship, all the teams were there, but only the winner got the trophies. And so parents were upset and they said, you know, why didn't our team get a trophy? And I said, because you didn't win. And so, because in that process, we're not teaching young people, if they're going to be competitive in the world, to be average. And just because you played, you get to partake in the trophy process. So in order for you to get a trophy, you got to win. And it's the same thing in life. During this time period, you know who the winners and losers are based on them being pushed against the wall during a pandemic. When you have to do something you're not normally used to doing, you know who the winners and losers are during this time if they're winning, even during a pandemic. And so every great person that I know, every great business that I know, every great church, every great country, I don't care what it is, greatness only shows up against opposition. And I'll leave you with this because I can talk all day. It's almost like, you know, as I think about 2020, we're losing a lot of heroes and a lot of great people. One of those great people we lost recently was Chadwick from Black Panther. And when I think about Black Panther, we get all caught up into the gear. We get all caught up into Wakanda. That's not really a real place, but we get caught up into the theory of that. But what made Black Panther so powerful and made him so special? He had to fight for it.
Right. And there is no testimony without a test. I see
That's
you,
right.
I see you jumping on in there. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. Thank you so much for that, Greg, because it made me think about the one word that I always, from as early as I can remember, I said, you will never call me mediocre. I'm always going to bring my A game 100% of the time. And I think that a lot of times we just show up and we're like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to be here. I'm just going to do that. And so when you're just mediocre. You got to always make sure that you're on time.
Yeah. Anybody can be mediocre. You can not do your homework and still get a C, right? So anybody can just be mediocre, but what separates, you know, average from really doing something special and walking your calling is those people are going to work hard and do the extra work and be prepared. And so, you know, you talked about being authentic and talked earlier about, you know, what are you learning? But there's a preparation period. If you're in COVID and you're not preparing yourself, then you're wasting COVID.
Yeah.
Woo. Now that's a deep one. That's kind of how we got started with this. But Ann, I saw you lean forward. I do not.
Oh yeah, Candy. Greg, $1 billion smile, man. You're flashing in Houston, Texas. So the way I look at this, and it may give you some access, is, and it links where Greg was, like, be cause in the matter. Like, you got to prepare and you got to play the game. You're not hearing these two people sitting in the stands watching. They're playing the game. They're playing the game. And so I choose to be cause in the matter, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm training, or whether I'm doing things that are focused on serving a community. I'm playing the game every day. I'm on the court and I'm not sitting up in the stands watching.
Absolutely. And this is why these kind of calls and webinars and workshops are so important, is so that we have these goals and we get focused and we go. And so we have to be ready for the transition, but I don't want to just transition. I want to go that way. I don't want to go this way. I want to level up. So I had to take that chance and step out and let my job go. June 30th, I made a transition that to me was not a transition. It was a transition. And it's scary, but it's exciting. And we have to think about that, because this whole conversation started with Greg and I talking about don't waste COVID-19. And you just said it again. And I was like, wow, there's going to be a part 2 to this, because you could talk about that all day. So share with us what you guys think about not wasting COVID-19. That's important. People talk about shifts and pivots, but a pivot is just a little bit, and the shift is just a little bit. I'm looking at the bigger, better, how not to waste COVID-19. There is a reason for this season. What is it? How do we not waste COVID-19?
Well, first, I think in order for you not to waste COVID-19, again, this goes back to you. It's important that you identify who you are. So once you know who you are, what your interests are, Candy, okay, so I am the CEO of Positive Results Center. We're a nonprofit, and we address trauma from a cultural perspective. We lost 40 to 50% of our funding by April the 1st, but that did not stop me. That did not stop my team. We looked at how could we be very present in the marketplace. And people say, girl, I see you everywhere. And it is important to be seen, because if you were not seen, that means you are not relevant. That means that you are not in the game. And so I looked at, along with my team, see, the important thing is people forget you have a team. Don't show up by yourself because you didn't get there by yourself. Bring your team with you. Ask them how can they support? What do you need from them? What do they need from you? Because what we forget is that when you have a client, you actually have two clients, your internal and your external. So your internal clients, which are your team members, can destroy your business and you will not have any external clients. We talked about what could we do in spite of the fact that we lost half of our funding. And so we turned around and really developed a very strong internet presence. We were already in the field doing things, but we turned that around very seamlessly, and we created a dynamic program that now people all over the country are trying to engage with us, which is excellent. And now we're looking at not tomorrow, we're looking 5 years down the line. See, if I plan for tomorrow, tomorrow's gonna be here before I know it. But if I'm preparing for 5 and 10 years down the line, then we'll actually be ahead of the game.
I love that, Candy. It is about being prepared, looking at your future, no matter what opposition that you're facing. So if I was to answer that question accurately, I would say I would answer the question by asking a question. Have you ever failed at something that you didn't want to do in the first place? And if you have ever failed at a job because you didn't want to be there in the first place and you got fired, or if you ever failed at anything that you didn't want to do in the first place, know what that tells me? You might as well go do what you want to do. Because if failure is always going to be an option, but why fail at something that I don't want to do in the first place? And so I think people have to spend this time, Candy talked about it a little bit, just in terms of getting prepared for next and figuring out what is your next. What is it that you want to do? I see a lot of people on social media. Everybody's a CEO. Everybody's a boss. Everybody, they got their little hustle going on. Everybody's a hustler. Everybody got their thing going on. But I remember Jay-Z said it best. Everybody's a boss until it's time to pay for the office. And so once it's time to write the check, everybody's not still talking about being the boss. The only reason I say that is don't walk through the season being confident and talking about what you want to do. Do what you say you want to do. Because being confident without being prepared is misplaced confidence. I'm going to say that again.
Yes.
Wow.
Confident without being prepared is misplaced confidence. I'm going to give you an example. As a CEO, as a speaker, and as a coach, I always think I can just rely on my talent. But Trina talked about that next transition, that next level, and talked about being a transformational coach. That's about going to the, it's levels to this. It's always about going to the next level. What I learned is I can either go on my talent or go on my talent and be prepared, which makes me unstoppable. Like, what you gonna do? I got the talent and I'm prepared. So no matter what is it that you're trying to do, you got the dream, you got the vision, you got the talent, get prepared. So use this season to really get prepared, because being confident without preparation is misplaced confidence.
Wow.
Ooh, you said a word.
Ain't that a mouthful? We need to pass that down to children. Without that preparation, that's misplaced confidence. That's one to note. That's one to say. And speaking about that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what people are defining as the new normal. And they call this season, this time that we're in, the new normal. But as we were chatting the other day, we talked about not everybody wants to go back to normal. Maybe that's not, your old normal may be so horrible that you don't want to go back to that. So propelling forward, let's talk about normal and new normal and what that means. What's a new normal to you, Dr. McClellan? And do you look at things as a new normal, or what are we doing?
Yeah, so for me, that would be a default future, like something that I know something about. And if I take that forward with me, based on where we've been, the loss of inspirational leaders, just the trauma that we've experienced with COVID, whether it's our families or just how the world has played out. So for me, I'm giving up normal, because actually normal doesn't exist in my world. If I do Ann McClellan every day, I'm creating the next thing, right? So,
yeah.
Hopefully all of you who are listening, you're going to get something. We do multiple things. We're constantly creating and what's next and what's next. During this time, I've doubled down on Ann McClellan. Like, can I make a better Ann McClellan? I have studied, I have prepared, and I got to tell my colleagues, I've nearly tripled my training, consulting, and executive coaching business, because I reached in and said, this is the time where you've got to be transformational as a leader. This is the time you have to double down and make sure that the people that you serve as a leader are more than okay. You've got to almost carry them through. So for me, I'm all about the created future, and that doesn't include any of this. And sorry, Trina, I'm not in it for the new normal. Because for me, nothing I do is normal. Like it's like I'm somebody's thing just popped up and they're an author of Trailblazer. I'm a rainmaker. I'm an innovator, and I'm out there. And so for me, this time is something I've never had, to invest in myself and invest in my business. And, I'm prepared. I'm ready to play. Greg, I am prepared.
That's right. Woo-hoo.
And I'm going to talk about the new normal, because I don't know what the new normal is, because I've always been looking at, again, I'm real focused on Candy. I can't be a good leader if I don't know who I am, if I don't know my strengths. And every season, Trina, you said this earlier, we have seasons. And my original career was in sales and marketing. And I left in 2007 as vice president of a technology company. But my season was up at that time. So that was my old normal. I reinvented myself based on where I needed to be, where my spiritual self needed to be. And I grew from that. And in this season right now, again, I'm looking at, who am I? What can I bring to the table? What's my company going to do, and how can we best support the community? And so it's always constant change. Nothing really stays the same. And if it does, no, I take that back. We are from birth who we originally are. So you might have some growth. You might grow some gray hair. You might get taller, shorter, thinner, bigger. You might get richer, or your finances may go away. But who you ultimately are has never changed from birth. Things will impact you, such as this. COVID has impacted us, but you have to really be authentic to who you are and how can you show up in this world.
Wow, love that. Oh, for the record, the Lakers are on.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Just for the record, the Lakers.
But they have a new normal too, right? They're playing without fans there, so
Therefore,
I'm recording for you.
when you think about what the NBA is doing and also what the NFL is doing, they had to readjust their normal. So they have to look at how they were going to get through this season differently than what they've been used to. How do you get through this season? Because you got to get through it. We got to do the season. How do you get through this season differently than the normal way we've been doing it? So now they're in this bubble, no fans. How do you get through this season without no fans? Without your likes, without people, without people cheering you on? How do you double down, as Ann talked about? How do you double down on you and your team, and that's it? Because now you're home, you got the children at home. If you're living with a significant other, you're with that person. And how do you double down on just your team, because that's your team, and figure out how we're gonna win through the season, because we got to get through the season. And so one thing I've learned, because I'm not that smart, I'm a C student. I was a C student. I'm not that smart. But one thing I learned is that I didn't always know what my next step was going to take me. I had no idea. I had no idea where my next step was going to take me. I had no idea where I was going. I'm from Jersey. I have no idea how I got to California. All I did was take advantage of the next opportunity. So as opportunities came, I took a step. As the next one came, I took another step. Next one came, I took another step. I got fired, I took another step. I had to deal with the unexpected, I took another step. And so for everybody on the line, whatever your next step is, you may not know what your next step is. You may not even understand what God is doing in this season. But take the step. Develop your own values. Like, what do you really care about? What are your values right now? And so, as we talked about earlier, nobody wants normal or average. And one thing I said in our pre-meeting is that for some folks, we don't want to go back to normal, because normal for some people was being homeless. Yeah. Normal with some people were being in a miserable relationship. Yeah. Normal for some people were being in an abusive relationship. Normal for some people were going to a 9-to-5 that you hated. So now if you're working at home or you furloughed or whatever, this is your time to, if you're gonna fail at something that you want to do.
Amen.
Baby, that's the truth. Let me just share with you all. As I said, I left corporate America in 2007 and I was lost. I had no idea where I was gonna go. And I'm gonna be very transparent, tell y'all to do it. I'm gonna be authentic. I had a complete breakdown, a complete mental health breakdown. This person you see in front of you, I did not look like this in 2007. I looked horrible and I was lost and I did not know what I was gonna do or where I was gonna go. But I got quiet and I got still and I went inside myself and I thought about what did I wanna do and where was I gonna go? How was Candy gonna show up? And I thought about all the gifts that I had been blessed with and all the ways that I had been blessed. And I said, just like Greg said, I had made millions of dollars for companies. And I'm thinking, well, if I made all this money for them, why can't I make some money for myself? Why can't I invest in my community? Why can't I do this, this, and this? And I had everyone in town, including very close family and friends, tell me, Candy, you don't have a degree in that. You don't have experience in that. You don't have any money. You're this, you're that. There's no way you could do it. And all those people today are calling me saying, Candy, can we work with you? Candy, can I get a job? Candy, can you teach me how to do this? because I took time to invest in myself.
Mhm.
And I can't stress that enough. Take a chance on yourself. Invest in yourself. There's nothing beats a failure but a try. And if you don't succeed, it's not because you failed. It's just that one didn't work. Tweak it until you get it the way you want it.
Absolutely. I just wanted to expound on some of the things that you guys were saying. I was at a retreat in maybe like December of last year, maybe November, December. And I remember having a speaker say, everything you need is already inside of you. Everything that you want to do is already inside of you. All that innate ability, there's talent. You gotta train it. You gotta prepare, but you got the basic stuff inside of you. And I think we're usually too afraid to dig within and kind of go for it. But I remember leaving that retreat saying, I need to stop planning. I need to stop thinking about it. I need to stop doing all this stuff and go. And that was the word that God gave me. I wanted 2020 to have this big vision board, all this stuff I'm gonna do for 2020. But here I am at the end of 2019. And I'm like, come on, God, really? You give me one word? Go. So this is a retreat. They're doing a vision board. So I put go on the board and I told the lady I'm out. And she's like, wait. you gotta have more than that. And so then I wrote on top of it, ready, set. And when she turned her back, I was gone because I had what I needed inside of me, but I needed to hear it. I needed to believe it. So then I started with more preparation and more training. So I want to commend you guys, even on this call. This is preparation. This is training. You guys know I'm always on somebody's webinars, Zoom, and everything that's out there because that's how you grow. This is what we need to do. We need to hear from each other. We need more meat and we need to hear from our experts and we need to grow. So again, I'm commending you and just saying, sometimes you just gotta go. It may be your time to go. So again, thank you. I had to throw that in there. And I want to put another question out there. Gregory, you talked about social impact, and that's on our title. That is part of our reason. People think that it's just business, we're just networking, what about me? What do you see as a social impact, coming through social impact of today, of COVID-19? That's a big one.
It's a huge one. I mean, when you consider, people think that COVID-19 is like our first pandemic. But in reality, we've been living with a racial pandemic for over 400 years. And then COVID-19 came, that's like the second pandemic. And so you're already living with one pandemic, and then you add this other pandemic on top of that. So in reality, we're living right now in a double pandemic. And when you think about that, how do you survive a double pandemic? With businesses going crazy, unemployment is going rampant. You got a lot of people dying. Like I lost an aunt and an uncle due to COVID within 10 days of each other. Within 10 days. We didn't get over the first one before the second one happened. And so I know many people are dealing with that level. And George Floyd threw me for a loop. I cried for several days because it was a reminder. It was a reminder of every time I got pulled over. It was a reminder of every time I was othered. It was a reminder of every time I had to deal with racism and systematic racism. It just became a reminder. And so when you think about the social impact and social justice, if we are not having that conversation along with business, along with dealing with COVID, along with everything else that we're dealing with, if we're not talking about it in a real way to make real change around social justice, then we've wasted COVID. And we wasted this opportunity to really make change around issues of race. So when George Floyd happened, a lot of companies put out their statements about Black Lives Matter, and all that is great. But until we really take serious about looking at systematic, so when I talk about social change or social impact, I'm really talking about social justice. And how are we making an impact as it relates to social justice during this pandemic? And how is your voice being heard? Are you voting? I know in my organization, we're feeding thousands more people than we did before. That's collective social impact. I know from personal experience, from people that I know who are dealing with, they're already in an abusive relationship. Now you have to stay home with this fool? That's different. And if we're not having those conversations about how we're going to really make change in our community, then again, I think we're wasting. So when I talk about social impact, I'm really talking about social justice. How do we change laws that's going to really make a difference for our communities going forward?
Yes, thank you so much. You know, I got to jump in here because this is my conversation. This is what I want to let people know. They're saying, oh, wow, all of this violence and abuse, this is horrible, and it's just popping up everywhere, and this isn't like normal. People, ladies and gentlemen, this has been going on all along. We have dating violence, domestic violence, interpersonal violence, sexual assault, teen dating violence, however you want to call it, has been a pandemic for the longest. And for people of color, and I'm not just talking about women, because girls and boys, men and women are victimized. And it's happening every day. Did you know that every 8 seconds, a woman in the United States is beaten or abused? And let me put that in terms. That's only in the United States. And I said woman, so that means that anyone that is younger than 12, they're not counting them. And so when we are looking at issues of social justice, we have to really figure out how can we show up. And there's some things that I just want to share. First off, if anyone on this Zoom has ever been victimized, and I'm never going to call you a victim. I'm not going to say that you were abused, but I'm going to say that you were victimized. And I'm not going to say, tell me your story, because I can argue with your story, but it is your truth. And so as that, we need to believe people when they tell us their truth. We need to support people when they tell us their truth. And when they tell you their truth, don't criticize them and don't further victimize them and say things like, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you still there? And all the negative things. We have to just stop and listen and then not put our thoughts into it and say, well, this is what you ought to do. You ought to do this, this, and this. There's one question that you should ask them. How can I help? Because we're talking about right now, domestic violence, but Greg, you also brought up some points about hunger and food insecurities. A domestic violence victim can also be homeless. She could be, or he could be a victim of sexual assault. They could also have hunger insecurities. They could have just lost their job. They could have mental, emotional, and physical issues. There are handicapable people who have been abused. So let's stop acting like we don't see things. Vote. Talk to your elected officials. Don't just vote and be like some kids that I know. They'll come to me and they'll say, Candy, are you voting? Can I see your pamphlet? And let me just copy what you're gonna do. Read. Take the time to see what is important. I had a great conversation with my son who said, well, why should I vote for Biden over Trump? Because they kind of look the same. And I said, well, let's look at who's going to be in the House of, in the Senate and in the House of, I'm going brain deaf here for a minute. So it's important that you know who and what you're voting for and the importance of why you're voting for them. You're not just voting for that person, but that person is going to make a lifetime of changes and differences for your community. Don't think about you today. Think about the community tomorrow that you want to live in that's going to really help and support you and your family.
So Candy talks about voting. And so I'm going to pull you back to self-leadership. You know, the best leaders Candy talked about authenticity. We talked about preparing. We talked, like I'm focused on self-awareness. But the leadership is a choice. Courage is a choice. And at this point, you're being called to choose. And choose is a choice that you have. People who've been represented, who are feeling these social determinants that are affecting their lives don't have a choice. But when you have a choice, it's God-given. And I can't underscore that when you're not leading and you're not choosing to lead, you're failing to hear the call. I don't know how to say it any other way. And Candy, you're so inspiring. I feel like I should just hang out with you. There goes that $1 billion smile. This time, what has come out of it is, are you willing to choose yourself and choose what's good for more than just yourself, and choose to lead? And I'm in the same vote. Please vote. I can't begin to tell you that choice is going to take some courage too, but it requires that we start to lead ourselves and our families and our communities.
Absolutely. And I see that our chat box got really busy around this topic, and we had a segue, but that's good. You know how you go to church and that pastor tell you, we're going to let the Lord lead us. We're not going to get stuck. We're going to go where we need to go. So this was very important. I'm hoping Judge Titus is unmuted. Miss Alicia, are you able to unmute Judge Titus? She's put some really, really great stuff in our chat box. And I tried to warn you and text you that I'm getting ready to throw you out there just out of the blue. So can you hear us, Patty Titus?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I am so happy that you're here, and I see you over there. You don't know that I want you to speak at our next one, so I didn't want to bother you today. But since you're over there, you're giving us so much in that chat room that I need to add you. You know, we segued all over the place, but give us your insight. Share with us some of the stuff that you just put in the chat.
Yeah, well, definitely for next month. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I would love to be able to address that. But just quickly on that point, I just found out, I attended a webinar last Friday that domestic violence is the second leading cause of death for Black women between the ages of 18 and 34. That's staggering. That is staggering. We already know that we're disproportionately impacted by it. Yes, we know that men are also abused, but the second leading cause of death, I mean, that's unacceptable. You know, someone should be sounding an alarm. It should be on the top of every legislative Black caucus in every 50 states on their agendas. And people don't want to talk about it. So my goal is to have people talking about it. About the pandemics, I'm a member of the National Bar Association, which is the largest national organization of Black judges and lawyers. And the incoming president took office last month, and they identified 3 pandemics. So the first 2 that Greg mentioned, of course, but then the third pandemic of voter protection and the fight against active voter suppression. And yes, we live in California, and sometimes we're lulled into a false sense of security, but everyone else in the country, you know, they're passing laws just trying to keep people from voting. There was one southern state where a person said, oh, if you're arrested for protesting, which is your right as an American citizen, and I didn't say go on a rampage, but you have the absolute right to protest. Say that you don't like something. You can look up what the word means. You can say you don't like something. That's all right as American citizens. And he wants to take away the votes. Why is he picking that thing to take away from somebody? Because he already knows that when Black people go to the polls, things change. We put in different minded people. So those are some of the things I wanted to encourage people to participate in the voter forums, the candidate forums, the town halls by the various groups. Ask questions, ask them pointed questions, and get your questions answered. Because if your people in office won't do what you would like them to do, vote them out and put somebody else in who has the same mindset and agenda that you do.
That's awesome. So we're talking about being involved, and that's what we're doing here, taking that next step as leaders. So you have to be leaders and be informed and be involved. I think we can, all agree on that.
And in your sphere of influence, everyone doesn't have the comprehension level. If you just pick up a voter pamphlet, it's so many words. You really have to have almost a college degree to understand a voter pamphlet, the publications. But if you go to a forum, you have people explain it to you, you understand it a little better. So don't, yes, you want to encourage young people to read it for themselves, but they need help. Explain it to them in a manner in which they can understand it. And then as they grow and mature, they'll learn more and more bit by bit. But you want to encourage them. So if it's a matter of they respect you enough and know that you're reading and that you wouldn't steer them wrong, and if you don't mind, I can see how you're voting, then at least take the time to tell them, yes, you can look at my ballot. And this is why I'm voting the way I am. And here's some things you could do to find out more about this or in this particular area that you seem to be so interested in. And here's some questions you can ask. I mean, we have to guide and assist. And that's the same way with the domestic violence. I wrote a book on Friends for Life, 7 things friends can do to support loved ones experiencing domestic violence. And it's the same thing. We don't cast judgment because everyone's story is different. But you definitely want to support. You don't want to let that bridge be burned because the abuser's counting on isolating the person who they're abusing. That's their goal, so that they can continue to exercise dominion and control. So just keep an open mind, encourage, but also support. And in this critical election, let someone copy off your ballot. And then you can help them on for the next election.
Guiding, right. Well, this is definitely the deeper issues of social impacts. I'm glad that we did segue and get deeper into that. So thank you for your comments, Judge Titus. And I know we are right now moving into a quick Q&A. Miss Naomi, you were watching the chat box. You said that there was a question about how to think outside the box. Is that the question, Miss Naomi?
Yes, actually, when it comes to at this time of introspection and during this time of COVID, when you probably should be concentrating on how are you going to level up, how are you going to educate, how are you going to find your authentic self, Ms. Lewis, and look for what is it that I'm trying to do, but not only on a personal level, because that's where it has to start, but on a business level. Right now, businesses we know are suffering, and we're looking at how do you take whatever it is, your gift, your talent, your calling, your service, or your whatever it is in your business, and completely think outside of the box, incorporating, incorporating the whole piece of what's going on in societies. I mean, I have heard people say that that now is the time when you really have to look at what can you do for the greater good. If each one of these people on our panel, they're successful, they're huge in what they do, and when you recognize the common denominator, they are doing things for other people. So how do we get our mass of people who say, well, I sell widgets and that's what I do, but how do we get them to think outside the box? Just like the company Bombas that makes socks. These 2 guys make socks. Who cares, right? Socks. But they sell millions of dollars worth of socks because they donate a big portion of their socks to homeless people that don't have socks. So how do we think outside the box? So that's the basic question that some of us want to know. Take it away, people.
Okay, panel, how do we think outside the box? What's next?
I think part of it is something I call the consistency compound. It's like the compound effect, and it's about staying consistent. And so, if you think about those companies, businesses that last, it's because they stay consistent no matter what's going on. Pandemic, no pandemic, consistency. Things are great, they're consistent. And so it's every day being consistent. And it's being innovative. It's taking, something that nobody, if you want to stay ahead of the game, do something that hasn't hit the market for 2 or 3 years yet. You know it's coming. You know it's going to happen. But if you want it, you got to stay ahead of the game. And again, it goes back to not being average, but staying ahead of the game and being consistent. So I call that the consistency compound. And it's about adding value to people. It's about add more value to people, add value to people, add more value to people, and then help people add value. Add value to people, then add more value to people, then help other people add value. And when you add value and you stay consistent with that, I think that's a way to stay ahead of the curve and think outside the box.
I had heard, thank you so much, Mr. Scott, because it's in line with a quote that I remember from years ago from a motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar, that said, you can have anything you want in life.
You help enough people.
Help other people get what they want in life.
Yeah.
Yep. I know you've heard of him. Candy, you have some thoughts on that?
I do. So I want to take a moment and say thank you to my friend, Greg Scott. So it's important that not only do you stay consistent, but you, Trina, you said everything that you need is right inside of you. But I'm going to take it a step further and say that your top 5 or 10 people in your network have everything that you're going to also need. And so my network was very small when I first started doing this, and everybody told me I couldn't, and I didn't pay attention to them. I knew that I could, but I also knew that I needed support and I needed help. And I reached out to people and I asked people for help. And one person that I asked for help is my brother, Greg Scott. And Greg mentored me. As a grown woman, he mentored me and helped me to really dig deep to understand what was it that I really wanted to do and who was I and how was I showing up. And so it's really important that you reach out to other people and see how you're showing up. And it is true. When I first started doing this work in 2008, I had no idea what I was doing, but I went out and I met people and I talked to people and I talked about what I wanted to do, but I really listened to what the community wanted and needed. And so I worked with that. And I realized in 2009, there was not a single agency in all of Los Angeles County that was solely focused on addressing trauma from dating violence, sexual assault, and bullying of African-American kids and Latino and mixed race kids. And that's where I came in. So for years, I talked that talk about domestic violence, sexual assault, teen dating violence, and some people listened and some people didn't, but I stayed focused on that. And now everyone's talking about it, and other people are coming back to me and saying, Candy, you've been talking about this for 10 years. True. But I continue to look at how can I expand what it is that we're doing? How can we better serve the community? And when people call me and say, Candy, I'm trying to start this, or I need that, I do what my brother Greg did, and I mentor people. I can't mentor everybody, but what I can do is I can take a call. I can respond to an email, and I can assist and support you. I contacted people and I said, look, I'm gonna need you all to be on this call today. And one of the first texts that I put in the chat, like, who are you all in this room? Talk to other people. Let people know who you are. What is it that you wanna do? Because someone can help you, or they can help you to fully flush out what it is that you wanna do.
Exactly, because connections matter. That's why we're here. That's another big part of our theme today is networking. I had no idea that Candy knew Gregory. That was just two great people. And again, that it's the connection and relationships matter. But as you kind of bring in your sphere of people, you surround yourself with people who are what you want to be and what you want to do and the level that you're trying to get to. So I think that's really important. We are ready to wrap up. We told you guys to have, you had to be present to win raffle prizes. So we're going into a raffle, but I don't want to miss anything that our experts here want to give us, our panel, Dr. McClellan, Mr. Scott, Mrs. Lewis, if there's anything else you want to add as closing remarks before we do the raffle and have a toast and enjoy our Friday night. Anything else?
I'm looking at the chat. Looks like our brother Josh from
Billy
from Pennsylvania had a question, and I want to make sure we don't miss that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I probably was supposed to go back to Naomi for questions, but okay. Josh's question is, what lessons have you learned that you can pass along as advice for people to step up their outreach networking efforts?
So I'll take a shot at it. I have a couple of questions that I think are game changers. And so when you're meeting new people, what conversations are you having with yourself about those people? So are you open, or you've already made decisions? So as you're networking, if there's a conversation going on about yourself not being good enough or they're not that, then I'd really look at that. For networking, the other thing that I look at is, what are you committed to? And find like-minded people. Like Candy said, she looked to her network. She asked for help and continues to give help. I take calls all day. I think I've talked for the last 3 days from 7, and I'll go to bed talking. Sometimes it's just lending a hand, and it's pretty complimentary, Josh, when you reach out and say, hey, I'd just like to talk, and I have some questions. And the last one is when you're networking, people get this, which is, if you're willing to be cause in the matter, play the game, and play, and I serve, I don't develop widgets. I don't have a talent for building widgets. But I serve, whether it's serving through coaching, serving through a community-based program, serving as a board chair for a charter school, serving as I have 2 board chairs for a not-for-profit in Houston that serves homeless youth. Whatever it is, if you're willing to be cause in the matter, then you can enroll me in what you're trying to do. And so, ask yourself, are you clear? And are you willing to be just really committed? And if you are, most people will open their networks, and most people are willing to talk to you, at least to get you started.
Right.
I'll jump in there next. Josh, I think it's a great question. I'm an introvert extrovert. So I don't like networking. I don't like networking. Since I don't like it, I got to be real clear about why I'm networking. And so if I was to leave you with 3 or 4 things, one would be clear about what you want. So, anytime you walk into a room, you got to know what you want from that room. And it goes back to what I said earlier about being prepared. Some people are so charismatic, they think they can walk into any room and I'm gonna talk to everybody, and I'm gonna be that dude in the room. Don't be that guy. Be the guy who is walking into the room and you're prepared. You know pretty much who's gonna be in the room. You know when you walk out of this room, what do you want? So know what you want from the room. Place yourself in the right environments. Some people I know go to every event. Don't be that guy. Don't go to every event. Be real clear, consistent about what events you will go to and what may not be the best use of your time. So guard your time, and go to the right events, not just to every event. and then it'll be take action. And so one of the things that I learned, and then I'm gonna shut up. One of the things that I learned is whoever asks the best questions controls the conversation.
Amen.
Whoever asks the best questions controls the conversation. So what I learned when I am meeting people or I'm networking, I'm out there, I'm at an event, I just learned how to ask really good questions. And by based on my question, they tell me everything I need to know about them. And I learn whether they can help me or not based on my questions. So get good at asking questions. And he who asks the right, people think the person who talks the most and tells more about I'm this, I'm that, I'm that, they think that's the person who controls the conversation, but it's not, because most of us tune that out. But when you ask questions and you ask really good questions of me, I'm interested in, now my next question is I want to learn about you. And so people who are doing all the talking at an event are not the people you want to talk to. You want to get really good at asking the right questions.
Those are all such great answers. And Josh, I hope it's making sense, not just to you, but to everybody. I hang on to two because I do go to a lot of networking events, but I learned something really quick early on, was that principle of scarcity. You don't want to be seen at every event for everything, and you're not even interested in that. So like Gregory just said, you don't show up at everything, but you show up at the right things. What's your goals? What's your what are you looking to do? Who are you looking to network with? And you keep it where you're scarce. When people see you, they go like, whoa, he's here. Let me go talk to him. Because they know you're focused. They know you have a purpose and what you're looking for and what you're doing. And they get to know you by that. People know I'm a connector now. They think my last name is Treasures. Trina's Treasures. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm Trina Lawson. Let me brand myself as Trina Lawson Group. But I got identified as connecting even on that social level. And I said, okay, I don't want to just be this social butterfly. This has a bigger purpose. I have other stuff to do. So I think that principle of scarcity. And one other thing for me is authenticity. I have people tell me all the time, you're so genuine, that's why we want to work with you. You're so genuine, that's why we want you to come back. That authenticity is, I'm authentic. I'm going to give my real self, be my real self, so I don't have to remember the lie I told you last week. I don't have to remember to act a particular way because now I was over here with you and I acted this way. And then when I go over here with her, I got to act that way. And just be authentic, be yourself. Somebody put in the chat, I think it was Toya, show that you care. And Miss Cade, you put be prepared and intentional. So those are all great tips for you and for all of us. But if it's authentic and it's you, you are going to show you care. You are going to be involved. And so all of these are tips that I think goes back to some of that being authentic to who you are, being true to yourself. Okay? So get Candy all the questions. Go ahead, Miss Candy.
I didn't get a chance to chime in on that. When you are networking is really important, and it's very critical that you not only show up, I think, Greg, you said, be prepared. So do your research on where you're going, why you're going there, and who you want to meet. Now, I'm opposite of Greg. I used to show up everywhere because I did not know where I needed to be. But once I found where I needed to be, then I realized that my time is important and I don't want to show up everywhere. But it gave me an opportunity to know who the players are. There's the good people, there's the bad people, and then there's those other people. And so it allowed me an opportunity to really get a better understanding of who the market is. So now when I walk in the room, people know that, wow, if Candy's here, this must be an important event because I'm very careful on who and where I spend my time and who I spend my time with. I also don't walk in the room like, okay, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'm going to go and I'm going to acknowledge people. I'm bringing people in the room. I'm calling people and saying, come with me and let me introduce you to someone else. Be a blessing. My favorite thing is I'm blessed to be a blessing. And then there's opportunities and possibilities. And then also volunteer. As the CEO of Positive Results Center, I still volunteer for other people's events and programs, because it allows you an opportunity to get a chance to not only learn about something new, but people have an opportunity to learn about you. People do not buy product. People buy you. Your personality, your presence, how you show up, it is important. When you walk in the room and you think you're the best thing since sliced bread, trust me, bread gets stale and nobody wants it.
That's a good wrap up. That was a perfect wrap up to a great message, great evening.